different phone on their side.
I'm also trying to get my laptop set up so that we can test it. If mine works, then we know the problem.
L11, L12. So mark all of them? Yeah.
Richard? Yes? Are we pushing through audio now to the live stream?
Okay, I'll go for the quote on myself. For my file of exhibit.
Just turn it up and down. Yeah, good.
Yes. Yes. Yes, Mr. Van.
Good morning, my lord.
Yeah.
My lord, before my learned friend for the state proceeds with the next witness, with the court's leave, we'd like to hand up an exhibit that we promised to provide your lordship at the beginning of the inquest. Lord, it's a list of exhibits produced at the first inquest, and it indicates which of those exhibits are available or unavailable. And my lord will see from this list that the vast majority are unavailable and missing. My lord, we're going to mark this exhibit L12. And with the leave of the court, we'd like to...
L12.
L12.
Okay.
And my lord, one more matter before we proceed. Your lordship will recall that we made a request for the police to locate a number of the police files.
Yeah.
And that list is in Exhibit L2. My lord, we thought we'd give you a quick update as to where we are. So far, we've only been able to, or rather the police have only been able to locate 4 police files. That is Constable Johannes Nicolaas Meyer, Constable Dion Nordia, Constable Dennis Nordia, and Warrant Officer Veera Ragulu Naidu, who will be testifying this morning. So, my lord, according to our calculations, at least 13 of the police files still have to be...
13.
13. That's according to the shorter list of 17 files that we had requested. We just wish to express our concern that now that the inquest is not too far from its end, we're concerned that these files may not reach us before the inquest closes.
Well, I don't know what we can do to expedite that. How can we expedite it?
My lord, I don't know whether my friend for the state can advise us as to what steps have been taken and what could be done to expedite this issue.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes. Well, Lord, I've just been informed by the investigating officer that a number of files are being couriered currently to the province.
Okay.
He hopes to receive them today.
Oh.
Obviously, once received, they will immediately be forwarded to my learned colleagues so that they can interrogate the files.
Okay.
I'm uncertain about the number of files that are there. Once it is in my possession, I can then do a follow-up to find out what happened to the rest of the files.
Okay. Let's wait and see then.
Thank you, my lord.
I think we can proceed with the next
Thank you.
witness.
Lord, the next witness is a Mr. V.R. Naidu. He will be testifying virtually.
Is he on the list?
That's correct, my lord. His statement is G29.
On what
It's page
page?
1806. Bundle record.
806.
1806.
Okay. Mr. Naidu, can you hear us?
Yes, Your Worship, I can.
Okay. Do you have any objection to take the prescribed oath?
No, I don't.
Do you swear that the evidence you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Say so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Yes, Mr.
Thank you.
MacDonald.
Good morning, Mr. Naidu. How are you?
Morning, I'm well, thank you.
Sorry, Mr. MacDonald. Is this one of the witnesses who have to be warned of their rights?
No, my lord.
Oh,
The
it's
witness
not.
is currently present with his counsel,
Yes.
Mr. Jan Matladi.
Matladi.
Good Matladi.
Are you there, Mr. Matladi? Can you hear me?
That's correct, my lord. May it please the court, my lord. May I put myself on record?
Thank you, Mr. Matladi.
Mr. Matladi, my lord, as briefed by the State Attorney, Pretoria branch.
Okay, your
I'm
initials.
representing Mr. Naidu in this regard.
Okay, your initials are
J. Matladi.
J. Matladi. Thank
That's
you.
correct, my lord.
Thank you, Mr. Matladi. You say there's no warning required for this witness?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Matladi. Yes, you may proceed then.
My Lord, I wonder if I might just interject, and my apologies for interrupting my learned colleague. It is correct that this witness is represented by counsel and presumably has been duly advised about his rights.
That's what I wanted to confirm, whether that has been done.
My Lord, he was a police officer.
Yeah.
He was in the security branch at the time of the incident in question, and at least one other witness has made allegations against him. Perhaps out of an abundance of caution, he should nonetheless be warned of his rights.
Okay. Okay, then you agree with that, Mr. MacDonald?
Please, yes, my lord.
Mr. Naidu, I'm sure your counsel has already counseled you insofar as your rights are concerned, but I just want to remind you that you are under no obligation to answer incriminating questions in these proceedings. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Lord.
Okay. Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. MacDonald.
Thank you, my lord. So as I was saying, sir, is it correct that your date of birth is the 2nd of June 1934,
That's correct.
and that you were part of the South African police within your career?
That's also correct. Yes,
And at some point in the 1970s, you joined the security branch of the South African police.
that's also correct.
Do you recall the date or the year that you joined?
I am not
security-
sure of the date and the year.
Now, what were your duties whilst at the security branch?
There were various duties.
Could you enlighten us?
Yes, I would enumerate that escorting was one of the duties. Surveillance, keeping observation, and escorting detainees.
Were you also involved with the interception of mail?
No, I was not.
Who of the branch was?
Beg your pardon?
Who was involved with that at the security branch?
The mail, they had a special department that worked to the mail.
And when you say escorting, this was, as you say, political detainees.
Yes.
Now,
There was times that we escorted witnesses to from the police station to various courts, particularly in Maritzburg, where they were giving evidence, escorting them back and forth, and also escorting detainees from cells to the station and to the office and back.
were you also involved with the questioning of witnesses, of political detainees?
No, I was not part of the interrogation team.
Now, whilst at the branch, is it correct that your branch commander was Brigadier Steenkamp?
Yes, when I joined, he was a commander then.
And your immediate commander was a Mr. Nayaga?
Yes, Nayaga.
That's correct, yes. Can you tell us the names of some of your colleagues that were present at the branch whilst you were there?
There was without giving ranks, there was a Modley, Permal, Benjamin, Raju, also Jacobs, Gopal, Harry.
Okay. Whilst we're on that, what role within the security branch did Mr. Gopal play? What were his duties? Any different from yours?
Well, each person had his own division to concentrate on, like student affairs, trade unions, churches, and things like that.
Okay. And what division did you fall under?
I was allocated trade unions.
And Mr. Gopal?
I'm not sure of what he was.
Now, do you recall an incident involving a Mr. or Dr. Hoosen Haffejee?
Come again?
Do you recall an incident regarding Mr. Dr. Hoosen Haffejee?
I recall the late Dr. Haffajee.
Now, firstly, am I correct that you were part of the team that picked up or met with the snitch, Mrs. M. Now Benjamin? Mardi Benjamin?
Come again, I didn't get that.
Were you part of the team that met with Mrs. M. Benjamin, Mardi Benjamin, at the Delhi restaurant?
I don't understand the question.
Let's make it easier then. What was your involvement, if any, with the incident regarding Dr. Haffajee?
I was not involved in Dr. Haffajee's affair.
Okay. Did you meet with the person Mahdi Govender or Mahdi Palandi or Mahdi Benjamin, as she is now known?
I've met the person that you mentioned.
All right. And is it correct that you met her at the Delhi restaurant in Durban?
No, I don't recall that.
Where did you meet her?
I recall meeting her at Benjamin's residence.
And you never met her prior to that?
No.
So if anyone were to say that you were part of the team that did in fact meet with Mrs. Benjamin much earlier in 1977, that person would be incorrect?
That will be.
Would you say it would be a lie?
Well, it's not correct. I mean, I didn't meet her there.
Now, during the investigations into Dr. Haffajee, is it correct that you were an escort?
Conveying him to the cells
Yes.
and back?
Is that
No,
what
I
you-
don't recall.
You don't recall?
No.
According to your statement on the second page, halfway down, it says, as far as I can recollect, I was an escort. Page 1807.
I cannot recall any direct Haffajees, you see, as far as I can recollect. I was an escort.
So you were an escort.
Escort meaning when he was in the office, could have been when the interrogator was gone out, we just sat with him.
Okay. So that means then that you were present at the interrogation.
Maybe partly that I was there.
Okay. And part of this escorting duties would be to take him from the interrogation room to the cells.
No, I don't recall taking him to the cells.
Do you recall taking him anywhere from the interrogation room?
No, only in the interrogation room.
I see. Can you tell us what transpired during the interrogation of Dr. Haffajee, as you were present?
He was questioned and he just remained silent.
Throughout the proceeding or throughout the interrogation?
Yeah, and he just refused to answer questions.
Was he assaulted in any way during the interrogation?
Not to my memory. Cannot recall.
How many members were present during the interrogation of Dr. Haffajee at the Brighton Beach police station?
How many?
Members from the security branch were present during the interrogation of Dr. Haffajee.
He was not interrogated in the police station. He'd been interrogated at the security offices.
Which were at Fisher Street?
Fisher Street. I think it's Stewart Square.
I see. So the information that we have is that Dr. Haffajee was interrogated at the Brighton Beach police station.
Not from my knowledge that I was present in any interrogation in the Brighton Beach police station.
But you were present at Dr. Haffajee's interrogation, though?
In the offices, yes.
Okay. And how long did this interrogation take? Hours?
He didn't.
Days?
Well, I was not long there,
Yeah.
so it would have been a short time.
What does that mean?
I mean,
Hours?
Maybe hour and a half,
So you're saying
or
Dr.
even
Haffajee-
less than that.
And this was the only time that you had seen or heard of Dr. Hoosen Haffejee during this
Yes.
interrogation?
That's right.
Was Mr. Gopal present during the interrogation?
Yes, I recall he was there.
What was his role during the interrogation?
He was just one of the person that was present.
Well, did he do anything at all?
Not
Did he
to
ask
my knowledge.
questions? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Come again?
Did he ask any questions of Dr. Haffajee?
No, I don't recall him asking any questions because I don't know if he was part of the interrogating team.
Do you know who was part of the interrogation team?
I recall one Benjamin.
That is Munsami Benjamin.
Yes,
He later went on to marry the person known as Mahdi.
the girl, alleged girlfriend of Dr. Haffajee.
And just on that point, you said you met Mahdi whilst at Benjamin's home.
Yes.
Was it a social visit?
No, Benjamin was going home and I happened to be with him and then we were together at his place.
Did you ever visit Benjamin?
Not partic-
Sorry?
Not visit. I was in his company
I see.
and he went home.
I see. And he then introduced you to his wife? Mahdi was
yes.
at the time his wife? I see. Now, back to the interrogation. You say that the interrogation never took place at Brighton Beach Police Station, but rather either at Fisher Street or at CR SWAT.
I repeat that, please.
You say that the interrogation did not take place at the Brighton Beach Police Station.
Yes, that is right.
Tell me so,
Not
please.
not in my presence.
Okay. But it took place elsewhere, in your presence, though.
It took place in the security offices.
And have you had or been present at many interrogations during your stay with the security branch?
Yes.
Were they held at police stations at all?
Not any police station. It was in during my sojourn. It was in the security offices.
Now, this Dr. Haffajee, he died whilst in police custody, correct?
That's what I was informed. Yes,
By whom?
by Benjamin.
When?
It was the following the day he died.
The day after.
Yeah,
Was it in the morning, the afternoon? Can you give us some kind of indication of time?
it was in the morning because we normally met. The staff met in his office in the morning. So he informed that Dr. Haffajee committed suicide.
And when you say the staff met, who was present? Was it? let me-
All the mentioned names that I mentioned were present.
So that's all the Indian section of the security branch, as we've heard before.
That's right, yes, because Benjamin was in charge of the Indian section.
And what time would these meetings take place?
It was early when we got to the office, at 8.
And what time did you get to the office in general?
Well, normally I get to the office at 7:30.
And the meeting is held around about 7:45?
Yeah, 7:45, 8 o'clock.
Okay. And all of these members were present.
Yes.
Was there any talk of how Dr. Haffajee might have lost his life?
Well, I only was informed that he committed suicide by hanging himself.
Were you or any other member, to your knowledge, requested to make up a story about his death?
No, not at all.
See. Now,
I don't know about others, but me, not.
no. Do you recall if you were present at Dr. Haffajee's arrest?
No, I was not present.
Do you recall one Captain Vic McPherson?
Come again?
Vic McPherson, do you recall the name?
Yes,
Were,
he was one of the
Sorry?
members of the staff.
And you are certain that you were not present at the arrest?
No, not to my knowledge, no.
So if someone said that they thought that you were present, would that person be incorrect?
Well, I'd say that I was, from my knowledge, I was not present.
I see. And you also said that it was a long time ago that this incident had occurred. Is that right? 44 years or
No,
so.
it is quite a number of years, yes.
They are things
Because
that
because I've since retired 30 years ago.
I see. And they are things that you may have forgotten since then?
Yes, my memory is not so good also.
I understand. So is it possible that you were at the arrest and just do not remember?
No, I was not, I don't recall being present.
Were you present at the arrest of other political activists?
Yes, I was present with other activists that were detained.
But this specific arrest, you know for sure you were not there.
No, I was not there.
I see. Were you involved in the observation of Dr. Haffajee at all?
No,
Surveillance?
not at all, no.
Not at all. So again, if someone were to say that you were part of the surveillance team at some point, then that would be incorrect.
No, that will be incorrect.
Do you know one coastal governor, Mr. K.S. Governor?
Yes, I recall. I recall the name. Yes,
Yes. Were you involved in his arrest at all?
I was present when he was arrested. Yes,
In which year?
I'm not too sure of the year.
See, the information that we have from Mr. Governor is that he was arrested 3 times. In 1971, 1974, and 1977. And all 3 occasions you were part of the arresting team.
Well, normally there was a number of members that will go to effect an arrest, not arrest, to detain. So I could be part of the team.
So you could have been part of the team that arrested.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And again, you are 100% certain that you were not part of the team that would have arrested Dr. Haffajee.
No, I don't recall that.
Were you part of the interrogation or questioning of Coastal Governor?
No, there was, as I said earlier, there was members that were assigned to do interrogation. So I was not part of the team.
The interrogation team. But is it possible that you were present during the interrogation as an escort?
Yeah, yes, that's possible because we normally take in lunch for them when it's during lunch.
And escort them also
And
to
they're
the
sitting
toilet?
when the... Come again?
And also escorting them to the toilet, for example?
The toilet and things like that, yes.
During the questioning and or interrogation of Mr. Governor Coastal in 1977, did you have opportunity to speak to him?
No, I don't recall speaking to him.
So can I then say that it is possible that you spoke to him, but you just do not recall?
It's possible I spoke to him, but I can't recall.
And do you dispute that Mr. Governor was arrested approximately a month after Dr. Haffajee died?
I'm not aware of that.
But you cannot dispute it.
I won't dispute that, no.
So we'd say then that it would be in September of 1977?
It's possible.
And it's also possible that you spoke to him during these questioning periods in 1977. It's possible that you spoke to him.
Spoke to him, but not in regards to questioning now.
Okay. I just want to direct you then to your statement, page 1807, which is the record. Halfway down the passage, the page, you say, I can recall being present with Major Benjamin, who was investigating Dr. Haffajee, that an incident did take place, the details of which are no longer clear.
I recall that.
What incident are you talking about? What incident are you referring to?
He's been questioning him regards what he knows about what happened.
Let's see. Sir, do you recall any other deaths in custody during that period of August 1977 to September 1977, wherein the security branch were investigating activists?
No, I don't recall.
Thank you. Nothing further, Lord.
Mr. Vani?
As the court pleases. Mr. Naidu, just to advise you, I'm counsel representing the Haffajee family. And Mr. Naidu, to further bring to your attention, as my Lord has warned you already, you're entitled to refrain from answering incriminating questions. Mr. Naidu, you're aware, though, that if you lie under oath before a court of law, you commit the crime of perjury. You're aware of that?
Yes, I am aware of that.
Good. Now, you mentioned that you joined the police, the South African police, on the 1st of March 1955 in Empangeni, and that you joined the security branch in the 1970s. Can I ask, why did you join the security branch?
I was asked by one of the members at Lake Niagara to join the security branch.
And why did Niger ask you to join the security branch?
I don't know for what reason, but he asked me to join the security branch.
But presumably he asked you because he thought you were a person worthy of joining the security branch, someone who could be trusted to do the work that the security branch did.
I'm not too sure about what his intention was, but he asked me to join the force.
So he never
joined
explained.
the security branch, yes.
He never explained to you why he was asking you to join the security branch. It just came out the blue.
Oh, he just asked me if I'm interested in joining the branch.
And were you interested?
At the time, yes, I did.
And why were you interested in joining this elite force, the security branch?
I had to get experience of the other workings of the force.
Did you know what the security branch did? The kinds of work, the
No,
operations?
not before I joined the branch.
Not before you joined the branch, but once you joined, how would you describe the main tasks of the security branch? What was their main mission or objective?
Well, like I explained, the certain duties that had to be done: surveillance, escorting, keeping observation, and things like that.
Would it be true to say that the main objective of the security branch was to suppress opposition to the system of apartheid?
I would agree on that.
And did it ever come to your attention that the security branch were using illegal means to achieve that objective?
Yes, I've learned about that also.
And you learnt about that while you were in the security branch?
In the branch, yes.
And what kinds of illegal means did you pick up on?
That the detainees were subject to torture.
Yes.
There's various types of torture.
Such as?
One is depression, depriving sleep, and the other is assault, and also where the person had to physically sit in a sitting position, like you're sitting and forced to stand.
Yes. Any other examples?
And also covering the person with the wet canvas bag.
And what was the purpose of covering a person's head with a wet Hessian bag?
That is to get information as to what they were interrogating him for.
But it's to ultimately restrict their breathing and cause them to perhaps panic.
Collapse. Yeah.
To collapse.
And cause panic.
Yes. And I take it you witnessed these forms of torture while in the security branch?
Not to my knowledge. I'm aware of it.
You're aware of it. And how are you aware of it?
Because you hear the members talking about it.
So are you saying to this Honourable Court that throughout your career at the security branch, you never once were present, not once, when a detainee was abused in any form or fashion?
No, I didn't say I was not. I was present.
Yes. Yes, you were present when detainees were being abused and
Yes.
such as being assaulted.
Yes.
Yes. And including techniques such as the squatting or pretending to sit when there's no chair, the imaginary chair treatment.
Yes.
And what about the helicopter or aeroplane treatment?
Explain to me about that.
Where a detainee is suspended from an object and forced to hang, and then sometimes assaulted while being suspended.
I'm not aware of that.
And what about electric shock treatment?
That was also part of the this thing, interrogation.
And typically, how would that be applied?
They will have a generator which will be cranked and cause a shock.
And where would they typically apply the electrodes? To what part of the body?
To his penis.
And anywhere else?
No, not that I can remember.
And you witnessed that?
No, I didn't.
Then how do you know the electrodes were applied to a detainee's penis?
Because you hear members talking about it.
So you're saying that you were present during acts of torture, but not electric shock treatment?
No.
And did you participate in any of this abuse?
I was present when a detainee was assaulted.
Yes. And did you yourself have occasion to assault a detainee? For example, a slap,
No,
a
I have
punch,
not.
or a kick?
I haven't assaulted any detainee.
But you were present when others were assaulting the detainee?
As I said, I was present when the detainee was assaulted.
And you took no steps to stop that assault?
Well, I was not in a position to stop them because it was already late. He was assaulted already.
And
because he's not going to tell me he's going to assault him.
yes, but the evidence that you've given is that you were present while assaults were being carried
Yes.
out.
I was present, yes.
While the assaults are being carried out,
But
did you
not
ever try to stop
to an
those
extent that
assaults?
it was not a prolonged assault.
And did you report those assaults?
The detainee reported the incident.
Yes, I'm not talking about the detainee. Did you report the assaults to either your superior or perhaps a district surgeon or a magistrate? In other words, take the matter further so that it won't happen again.
Not, I didn't report the matter, but I was made a witness in that matter.
Which matter was that?
It was the late Billy Nair.
And you were present when Billy Nair was being assaulted?
Assaulted, yes.
Now, why did you feel that you were unable to, generally speaking, report assaults against your colleagues?
Because I was eventually made a witness in that case.
Who did you testify on behalf in that case?
And testified in favor of the policeman.
Right. And in that case, what was your testimony?
That I didn't see any assault taking place.
When in fact the assaults had taken place?
Yes.
And am I right in saying so that you gave such testimony because you felt you had to, and that there would have been repercussions if you didn't?
Yes, because of the position that I'm in.
And please explain to the court that position that you were in.
The position that is, because this person that is a senior, and it was statements made to that I did not see what happened, and the case went to court.
So prior to that court proceeding, you clearly had a discussion with the other police officers involved, and you agreed on what testimony you would give before that court, essentially denying that an
Yes.
assault took place.
Yes, the statements were made and we were told to deny it.
Yes. So in that case, you were effectively covering up a crime.
Well, so to speak, yeah.
Not so to speak, you were covering up a crime.
That will be correct.
Yes, because you were asked to lie under oath and protect your colleagues, and you did so. Look, I should say to you, Mr. Naidu, in all fairness, that I'm assuming that took place more than 20 years ago, so that crime has prescribed. But as I mentioned, lying before this current court, that would be a crime that could be prosecuted. So please explain to this court about the culture of the security branch at the time. Was it an oppressive culture? Did you fear for your safety at any time?
Yeah, it was an oppressive culture.
Why was it oppressive?
Because it was the nature of the organization.
Yes. And would it be correct to say that that culture of the security branch expected members to do as they were told, not to question instructions, even if those instructions were unlawful? Is that correct?
That's right.
And was there also perhaps a golden rule that you don't rat on each other?
Don't?
You don't give each other away. You don't become a snitch. You don't say to the authorities, my colleague was involved in the torture of this detainee. You keep quiet.
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Varney, would it not be a convenient time maybe to take a short break?
Yes, my lord, as the court pleases.
We'll proceed at 12 o'clock then. Mr. Naidu will take a tea break. We'll reconvene at 12 o'clock.
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Court is adjourned.
Rise and court. All right, then here. Rise and march.
Mr. Naidu, let me remind you that you are still under formal oath.
Yes, Your Worship.
Yes, Mr. Bani.
As the court pleases. Mr. Naidu, before tea time, we had been discussing the security branch culture. And just to remind you, you had said that that culture in the security branch was oppressive. Can I ask you, what would have happened to you if you had in fact reported perhaps your white security branch officers to higher authorities? You had said to them, my colleagues, these white officers, are committing torture. They're carrying out the kinds of torture you have explained to the court. What would have happened to you in the security branch if you had done that?
Probably I would have been eliminated.
What do you mean by eliminated?
Done away with.
They would have murdered you.
Yeah, because that was the culture of the organization at the moment, at the time.
And would the same have happened to you if you had, for example, in the billionaire trial, you had testified against your colleagues? You had said, in fact, they did torture billionaire. Would the same happen to you?
That's possible.
So in effect, there was a culture of total silence. Whenever you saw something that was illegal, such as torture, it was not only expected of you to keep quiet, but if you didn't, there'd be very serious repercussions for you.
That's correct.
And would I be correct in saying that this would apply regardless of the nature of the illegal acts, either minor or serious?
Well, I suppose it will depend on the nature of the incident.
Okay. Can you elaborate?
If it is not serious, I don't think anything would happen to you.
Okay, I don't quite follow that, Mr. Naidu. I'm asking you, this culture of silence you've spoken about, the fact that you would be eliminated if you ratted on your colleagues, particularly the senior white colleagues, the question I put to you is that expectation to keep silent would apply regardless of the nature of the incident, whether it was serious or minor. You would be expected to keep quiet.
I think that is possible, yes.
Yes. And indeed, the more serious the incident, the greater the expectation on you to keep quiet, because the repercussions for those involved are much more serious.
That's correct.
So I want to put it to you that torture itself is a very serious crime. I want to put it to you, Mr. Naidu, that even if somebody had died under interrogation, the interrogators had gone too far, perhaps in their suffocation with the wet Hessian bag, and somebody died, you would be expected to keep quiet about that and play along.
That is correct.
Now, you've said that you were unaware of detainees, other detainees dying in detention, with the exception of Dr. Haffajee. Did I hear that evidence correctly?
There were others that died in detention, but I can't recall the names.
And were you involved in any way with detainees who had died in detention aside from Dr. Haffajee?
No.
All right. What is the relationship, Mr. Naidu, back in the days between the Indian security branch officers and the white security branch officers? How would you describe that relationship?
Well, the thing that they were superior. That is how they always were senior to you.
So there was a certain hierarchy.
Yes, because although Benjamin was the commander, but there was an overall commander above him, you know.
So it would be true to say that as an Indian security branch officer, you had a subservient role to the white security branch officers. They could instruct you to carry out whatever task they wished.
Well, the tasks that were allocated came from higher up.
But if you were part of an interrogation and a white security branch officer issued an instruction to you, you'd be required to obey it.
Well, I didn't have an experience of that, so I don't understand.
Well, for example, say you're part of an interrogation and a white interrogator says to you, go fetch me something, do this, go buy me lunch. You would have to do it.
Yes, you will do that.
Yes. And that would be true for any task that they issued to you.
Yeah, any instruction given, you would comply with that.
Yes. You said in your evidence in chief that you had never been part of an interrogation team, but that's actually not correct, because you have taken part in interrogations of detainees.
I didn't interrogate him because I have no knowledge about how to do interrogation.
So you're saying
There was a special team that were tasked to do interrogation.
right. So are you saying, Mr. Naidu, that you were present during interrogations, but you didn't ask any questions yourself?
Yes, because I don't know the nature of what questions to ask. Because those people that work with that will have details of the case, what they need to know.
So are you saying that your duties would be to, perhaps, as you mentioned earlier, to be escorting the detainee to the toilet for lunch and doing other menial tasks?
Yeah, that is correct.
Now, you have mentioned that you were a specialist on trade unions. Is that correct?
No, I wouldn't proclaim myself to be a specialist. I used to work in the trade unions.
Yes. But you mentioned that security branch members were allocated to different areas, trade unions, political parties, students, and the like, and your area was trade unions.
Yes, it's part of my duties, yes.
So you had to look at the role and conduct of trade unions fairly closely.
We have to get information regarding the workings of the trade unions, yes.
So are you saying that you never had occasion to ask a trade union detainee questions about his or her trade union activity?
No, I didn't. Because as I told you earlier, that I'm not part of the interrogation team.
Yes, but you were present during interrogations.
That's correct.
Now, in your evidence in chief, you said that the only time you met Marty Govender, who subsequently became Mrs. Marty Benjamin, was at her residence.
That's what I recall.
Yes, and that was when you were dropping off Benjamin at his home. Now, Warrant Officer Gopal says, in fact, that you did meet Marty Govender on an earlier occasion. He says that you were part of a team that was assigned to collect Marty Govender from the Delhi restaurant for questioning. And just to refresh
Not that I recall.
just to refresh
Not
your
that I recall.
to refresh your memory, Mr. Naidu, Marty Govender was a girlfriend of the late Dr. Hoosen Haffejee, although she turned on Dr. Haffajee because she felt spurned by him, and she decided to work with the security branch against Dr. Haffajee. Do you recall that?
I'm not aware of that.
Well, Warrant Officer Mohan Gopal, says you were part of the team that collected Marty Govender from Delhi restaurant. Are you saying that Mr. Gopal is mistaken, or perhaps have you forgotten?
I think I said earlier that I don't recall that.
But you're not suggesting that Mr. Gopal is fabricating that evidence?
I am not suggesting anything like that.
So you accept that there, in fact, is a possibility that you might very well have been present at the collection of Marty Govender from the Delhi restaurant?
I don't recall that.
I know you don't recall that you have stated. I'm simply asking whether you accept, given the evidence of Mr. Gopal who puts you there, that is indeed a possibility.
No, I don't think it's possible.
So are you saying that Mr. Gopal is mistaken, or perhaps lying when he says you were there?
I'm not saying that he's lying, but I'm not aware of it.
Well, in that case, is there a problem in saying that, given that you're saying he's not lying, that you may very well have been there, even if you can't remember it?
He could have been there, but I can't recall that.
My Lord, the evidence of Mr. Gopal on this point is at Exhibit G26.
Yeah.
And it's at page 1740 at paragraph 42. Mr. Gopal, when you were in the security branch, did you keep a pocketbook in which you inserted daily entries?
He had a pocketbook, yes, to make entries.
And what did you do with that pocketbook when you left the security branch?
So send it back to the branch.
So you're no longer in possession of your pocketbook or any other documents from that time?
No.
You say in your statement, Mr. Gopal, that you left the security branch in the early to mid 1980s. Why did you leave the security branch at that time?
I was not being progressing in terms of my rank, so I wanted to change fields.
So was it only a question of seeking promotion? Was that the only reason to leave the security branch?
That's correct. That's correct.
So you weren't unhappy in working for the security branch at the time. It was simply a question of climbing the ladder, so to speak.
Yes, because I was not happy, because I was not progressing in terms of my rank.
You said in your evidence in chief that Dr. Haffajee was taken to the security branch offices in Fisher Street. Can you describe to the court typically what happens once a person is arrested? What happens? Does any paperwork have to be filled in?
When a detainee is detained, is brought to the office, and there will be arrangements made as to where he will be detained.
Yes. And do the arrangements involve some kind of paperwork recording that he has been arrested?
I'm sure there would be paperwork, because that would have been done by the senior person that arrested whoever arrested him.
Yes, presumably the investigating officer would have to record in writing that the detention has taken place, at what time, at what place, and where he's being held, presumably.
That will be so.
Now, Mr. Naidu, the undisputed evidence is that Dr. Haffajee was never taken to Fisher Street. He was only taken to Brighton Beach Police Station. What is your response to that?
That could be possible.
Yes.
Because Fisher Street was many years ago.
Well, in 1977, Fisher Street was the operational headquarters of the security branch in the province of Natal at the time. So he could have been taken there, but they decided rather to take him to Brighton Beach Police Station.
He could have been brought to the office to get permission to where he will be detained, because you're not readily taken to a police station without finding out there's accommodation and things like that.
Well, you can accept it. It's the evidence in the first inquest, and also confirmed by Mr. Gopal, that he was never taken to Fisher Street. Once he was arrested in Overport in the early morning of 3rd August 1977, he was taken directly to Brighton Beach Police Station without stopping at Fisher Street, security branch headquarters. So I'm putting to you that is the evidence in the first inquest. It's also the evidence before this inquest.
I am not aware of that.
Yes, but it's something you'll have to accept, because there's no dispute on that question. Now, the other evidence on this question is that he was not booked in at the time.
He was?
At the time of his arrest and his bringing to the Brighton Beach police station, he was arrested quite early in the morning. I believe it was around 7 a.m. Or around 8 a.m. and taken directly to Brighton Beach police station. And at that point in time, no paperwork was done. He wasn't booked in anywhere.
I'm not aware of that.
Yes. But now that you are, do you find that odd or surprising?
Well, that's not the normal procedure.
Yes. In fact, he wasn't even taken to an office at Brighton Beach police station. He was taken to a room in the basement.
That is possible. I am not aware of it.
Have you ever heard of a detainee being interrogated in a basement storeroom as opposed to an office?
Well, it's the first time I'm hearing of it.
In your evidence in chief, you said you were not present at the arrest of Dr. Haffajee. Is that correct?
I don't recall being present.
You don't recall being present. But there's a possibility that you were present even if you can't recall it.
If I was present, then I would have known that they have taken him to the police station and not the office.
Well, it was 44 years ago. I suppose anybody would struggle to remember what happened on a day some 44 years ago, particularly when you deal with many cases.
Yes, no, that's true. But if it is an odd thing like that, you will stick out.
When you say an odd thing like that, what do you mean?
That he is taken directly to the police station.
You recall Captain Dutoy, who worked in the security branch at that time?
He was a colleague, yes.
Yes. Now, in his evidence before the first inquest, he said he instructed certain members to effect the arrest, which included Lieutenant Taylor, Lieutenant McPherson, Lieutenant Munsamy, Constable Gopal, but also you, Adjunct Officer Naidu. Are you saying that Captain... I beg your pardon?
I say I don't recall that.
Right. Are you saying that Captain Dutoy made that up or was mistaken?
I'm not making mention of that. I say I'm not aware of it.
You're not aware of it. But there is a possibility that you might very well have been part of that arrest. You just can't remember.
Say yes. Then no, as I said, I don't recall that.
So, are you saying that Captain Dutoy got this wrong in the first inquest? He testified that you were present when you were not.
I say I don't recall whether I was there.
So you don't recall that you were there, but you're not vehemently denying that you were there?
I said I don't recall being there.
Yes. Mr. Naidu, listen to the question carefully. You've placed on evidence multiple times that you don't recall being there. But the question being put to you is, are you in a position to conclusively deny that you were there?
Yes.
I
don't recall being there.
Let me put it to you this way. I put it to you that you're not in a position to deny being there if all you can tell this court is that you can't recall whether you were there or not.
I can't recall whether there's no not.
My Lord, the reference to Captain du Toit's evidence is in volume A8, page 196, at line 24. I beg your pardon, my Lord, it's at volume A3.
Yeah.
You see, Mr. Naidu, Mr. Gopal as well says that you were in a vehicle with Vic McPherson at the time of the arrest. So now you have two people, two officers saying that you were present.
Like I said earlier, it's such a long time I can't recall.
Yes. Lord, that's in Mr. Gopal's statement at G26. Page 1744 to 1745, paragraphs 51 and 52. So, Mr. Naidu, we will be submitting to this Honourable Court that, in fact, you were present at the time of the arrest. But assuming for a moment that you were not present at the arrest, then what were you doing at the interrogation?
Probably being escorting the person when he was being interrogated.
Right. So are you saying that you might have been called in later after the arrest had been effected?
That's possible.
Yes. You were asked in your evidence in chief whether Dr. Haffajee was assaulted at the interrogation, and your answer was, not to my memory. Are you still sticking with that evidence?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Naidu, the undisputed evidence before this Honourable Court, and indeed before the first inquest, is that when the body of Dr. Haffajee was examined at the post-mortem, and as well as by an orthopedic surgeon who was brought in by the family to examine the body later in the day, that there were some 70 bruises and abrasions all over his body. What's your response to that?
I'm not aware. I'm not aware of that.
Yes. But given that there were 70 bruises and abrasions, and the evidence is also that these injuries were inflicted during the interrogation. According to Professor Gordon, they were inflicted between 4 and 12 hours before death. would you agree that he had to have been viciously tortured to sustain as many injuries as that?
He could have been viciously assaulted.
But surely that is something you would remember?
But not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge. I want to put it to you, Mr. Naidu, that we will be asking this court to reject that evidence. Earlier you have said that you would remember something that was an odd case. And this is certainly an odd case because the detainee in question ended up dead the next morning. So it is something you would remember. And since he sustained those 70 injuries during the interrogation, he was viciously tortured, and that must have happened in your presence.
He must have been tortured, but I am not aware of that.
Do you recall how long you were present with Dr. Haffajee during his interrogation?
It had been a very short time.
And do you recall when that short time was? What part of the day it was?
No, I cannot recall.
And why do you say it would have been a short time? Surely for an interrogation you're required to be there throughout the full period?
Yeah, but if it was in the storeroom in Brighton Beach, so I just can't recall that.
Would you have been sent away perhaps by a senior officer to do some particular task?
Possibly.
Mr. Naidu, do you recall a former detainee by the name of Haroon Aziz?
I cannot recall. I don't remember.
He says you were present at the time of one of his interrogations in 1974. My lord, that's Exhibit G22, page 1544, paragraphs 26 to 27.
Yeah.
Mr. Naidu, did you have occasion to work undercover at the University of Durban-Westville, taking notes of what students were saying?
No, I didn't work undercover.
Were you never sent there to listen to what people were saying at political meetings?
No, I don't recollect.
Well, it's the evidence of Mr. Gopal that he in fact first met you in 1977 at the University of Durban-Westville, when you and he, together with Shruds Govender, Nayaga and Moonsamy, were instructed to dress in civilian clothes and to collect information, what people were saying at meetings, to write down or to remember registration numbers of cars. Do you recall that?
Yes, when the meetings we did take registration of cars,
Yes.
but we didn't change into civilian clothes. We always worked in civilian clothes.
Well, according to Mr. Gopal, on that occasion you were instructed to get into civilian clothes and to mingle with the other students. Were you ever part of the investigation into Joseph Mdluli?
Oh,
Sorry, let me repeat that. A detainee by the name of Joseph Mdluli.
I don't recall that.
He was suspected of being an underground operative with the African National Congress, and he was arrested in March of 1976.
No, I don't recall that name.
And the police claimed that he had a scuffle with members of the security branch at the Fisher Street offices and fell against a chair, hitting his head on a door and then dying in the Fisher Street offices. Do you not recall that?
I'm not aware of that.
You don't recall a political detainee actually dying in the very same offices that you worked?
No, I didn't recall. I don't recall.
Do you recall another detainee dying just a few days after Dr. Hoosen Haffejee in Brighton Beach police station?
No, I don't recall that.
So Dr. Haffajee died either on the night of 3rd August or the early morning of 4th August 1977, and another security detainee by the name of Bayampini Mzizi died just a few days later on the 10th of August, also in a cell in Brighton Beach police station.
Not that I'm aware of.
You never heard of that?
No.
You mentioned in your evidence in chief that you were part of the investigation into one Kambatsan Subramani Govender, also known as Coastal Govender.
Yes, I recall that.
And that you were part of the team that arrested Mr. Govender.
I would have accompanied the members to cause the detention, yes.
So according to Mr. Govender, the security branch in 1977, in particular during September 1977, he said they would harass and taunt me at random. They would visit my house and ransack it. Were you ever involved in any incident at Mr. Govender's house?
No, I am not. I don't remember being involved in that.
Mr. Govender says that he says that when the interrogation started, he was asked to strip naked. Do you recall that?
No, I can't recall that.
Are you aware of the practice of detainees being asked to take off their clothes before the interrogation starts?
Yes, I am aware of that.
And why, Mr. Naidu, were they asked to strip naked before the interrogation starts?
I'm not sure why.
Was it perhaps to degrade and humiliate them?
That's a possibility.
Was it also perhaps to avoid getting their clothes full of blood and other bodily fluids?
I'm not aware of that.
There is evidence before this court that is one of the reasons why they were asked to strip naked, to ensure that that kind of evidence was not left on their clothes. Doesn't that make sense?
That's a possibility, yeah.
Yes, doesn't that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's a possibility.
So Mr. Governor goes on to say that when the interrogation started, he was made to squat, sit in that imaginary chair position. You recall
That's
that?
possible, but I'm not aware of it.
He says that he was heavily assaulted during that questioning, and that he was pulled by his hair and his head pushed into a toilet bowl twice.
I'm not aware of that.
Have you ever seen a detainee's head being pushed into a toilet bowl?
No, I don't recall that also.
Because in actual fact, there is evidence from Mr. Gopal that Dr. Haffajee's head was pushed and held in a toilet bowl.
That's possible, but
Mr. Governor goes on to say, and my lords, sorry, I should have drawn the court's attention to Mr. Governor's statement at M3, Exhibit M3. I've been dealing with paragraphs 7 and 8, non-paragraph 10. Mr. Governor says that during one of his nights of interrogation, one of the security branch officers placed a gun on his head and dialed the number of a person by the name of Marianne Zimmerman. Do you recall that incident?
no, I don't.
Have you ever seen a detainee being threatened with a gun to his head?
No, I haven't.
Do you know who Marianne Zimmerman is?
No, I'm hearing it for the first time.
Now, it's also the evidence of Mr. Govender that while he was being assaulted, the security branch officers present said, "They will kill me just like they did to Dr. Haffajee."
That could be possible.
Yes. And he goes on to say that the Indian members, namely Gopal, VR, that's referring to you, I would imagine, and Benjamin, kept on saying, "These people will kill you like they did to Haffajee. Tell them the truth. You cannot afford to lose your mother, who is a widow." What's your response to that?
That's a possibility.
So you accept that it's a possibility that you were amongst the Indian members who said to Mr. Govender that the security branch will kill him just like they did to Haffajee?
All of us couldn't have said. One of them would have said, but it's not me.
But the evidence of Mr. Gopal is that it was you. It was you together with Mr. Gopal and Mr. Benjamin who kept on saying this.
I'm not aware of it.
Yes, that is the evidence under oath of Mr. Govender. And I must put it to you, Mr. Naidu, there's no reason not to disbelieve Mr. Govender. So, Mr. Naidu, the obvious question that arises is that you were aware at that time that Dr. Haffajee had been killed in detention.
I'm not aware that he was killed.
You were aware.
I'm not aware.
You were aware that he didn't commit suicide and had been killed in detention, and that is why you threatened Mr. Govender with the same outcome. He would suffer the same fate as Dr. Haffajee.
But I'm not aware of that.
You know, earlier in your evidence, in fact it was just after tea, you conceded under oath that even where a detainee died under interrogation, in order to save your own life and in order to avoid the repercussions, you would keep quiet. You recall your evidence?
I recall that.
Yes. Well, I'm putting it to you, Mr. Naidu, that you were aware that Dr. Haffajee had been killed in detention, that he had not committed suicide, and in order to preserve your position in the police and to avoid the very serious repercussions that may flow if you became the whistleblower, you kept quiet. You helped the security branch to cover up the killing of Dr. Haffajee in detention.
I'm not aware of that.
But I notice you're not denying it. Mr. Naidu, you're not denying that assertion.
Denying what, Your Worship?
You're not denying that Dr. Haffajee was killed in security branch detention, and to avoid the repercussions, you kept quiet. You did what was required of you. You didn't report those involved in killing Dr. Haffajee.
I am not aware of it, and I'm not saying that was happened.
No further questions, Your Lordship.
Ms. Keshav, I see that you have walked in. Do you have any questions for this witness?
Thank you, my lord. Yes, I just needed to inquire from Mr. Naidu. Did he ever apply for amnesty or appear before the Truth and Reconciliation Commission?
Yes. Mr. Naidu, did you hear the question?
No, Your Worship.
There's counsel representing Mr. Gopal. She's asking you a question. Would you repeat your question?
Mr. Naidu, did you apply for amnesty or appear before the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? I think, my lord, I don't.
Are you
have
too far
the
away?
mic.
Are you too far away, maybe?
No, there's no mic over here, so I think you
Okay.
can't hear me.
Just find a place where you could pose your questions for Mr. Naidu to hear them.
Thank you, my lord. Mr. Naidu, can you hear me now?
Perhaps if you were to remove your mask, maybe that would be better. Yeah.
Mr. Naidu, can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. Did you at any time apply for amnesty or appear before the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission?
Repeat your question.
Did you apply for amnesty or appear before the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission?
No, I have not.
Is there any reason why you did not apply for amnesty?
Well, I felt that I was not involved in any of the cases or any of the murders that took place. So I just decided, I thought that it was not necessary for me to apply.
Thank you, my lord. I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Naidu.
Mr.
Thank you.
MacDonald, any re-examination?
None, thank you, my lord.
Thank you, Mr. Nadi. You have completed your evidence. You may be excused.
Thank you, my lord.
Yes, Mr. MacDonald.
Thank you. Lord, I'm not sure if this is an ideal time to take the long adjournment.
Is there a
Yes, there
witness?
is the possibility of another witness. We have to just secure his virtual link.
Oh, okay. We'll proceed at 2 o'clock then. Thank you. Court is adjourned.